Om Shanno Mitrashyam Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brahaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Friends, I have been asked now to speak on the 6 systems of philosophy of the Vedic tradition. Vedas are the most ancient texts that have been preserved in India for probably more than 3,000 years, or even more than that. They were not written, but were heard by the students from their teachers, and this Guru Shishya Parampara has made them survive for thousands of years. In the Vedas, there are 4 distinct parts. The first part is called the Samhita, where mostly there are praises of gods, or what we call stotras. And in the second part, called Brahmana, there is the explanation of various rituals that were being held at that time, which were called yajnas, yagas, etc. And how those rituals had to be performed have been elaborately described in the second part called Brahmana. The third part is called Aranyaka, where the thoughts of the people in the forests were discussed and they were preserved like that. That is Aranyaka. As all of you know, Aranya means a forest. Aranyakas are forest texts. Finally, there are Upanishads, the 4th part of the Vedic literature. And there, mainly philosophical ideas are very vividly described. These are the Upanishads. Mainly, all the thoughts of Indians, the past and also the present, they can be found out in the Upanishads, all philosophical ideas. And there, we are making a distinction which are Vedic systems of knowledge or non-Vedic. By Vedic, what I mean is those that accept the authority of the Vedas. Those that say what is said in the Vedas is true. Those systems are called Vedic systems or Astika Darshana. And there were many independent movements in India even in the ancient times. India was all the time an abode of philosophers. And therefore, there are various schools. Many schools did not accept the authority of the Vedas, and they are called non-Vedic systems. We will be able to think about the non-Vedic systems in the next lecture. In this lecture, I am concentrating on the Vedic systems, by which what I mean is what is found in the Vedas and even the systems that grew up later, which accepted the authority or pramanya of the Vedas. And we find that the recognized forms, they are called Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. These are the 6 systems which are called Vedic systems of knowledge. All Indians should know about these systems. We should understand, should learn how the thoughts flourished at the Gurukulas and then grew up in various courts of kings and developed by later scholars. Those texts are being taught even now, at this moment, even in the 21st century. These things are being learned and taught in various places. So, the first system I would like to tackle is the Sankhya system. All of you know the word Sankhya. Sankhya means buddhi, the intellect. The word Sankhya also means number. So, in these two senses, the word Sankhya has been used. The Sankhyas gave the highest importance to buddhi, and so they might have been called Sankhyas. It is also possible that various kinds of numbers are used by them to describe this world, and therefore they might have been called Sankhyas. This Sankhya system is very, very old. Even in the Tripitakas, that is the Buddhist texts where the speeches, discussions, life, etc. of the great Gautama Buddha are recorded. Even in those books, we find reference to the Sankhyas. Many Sankhyas were coming and discussing with the Buddha about the reality of this world. And therefore, this Sankhya system is older than the 6th century before Christ. So much is very much definite. And later, what we find is that the originator of this system is Kapila Muni. His name was Kapila, a very great sage whose stories have been said in Ramayana and also in the
ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ರಾಜ್ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಮೈಕ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
So Kapila was one of the greatest seers or sages of our country, and he is supposed to have written the sutras or aphorisms of the Sankhya system. But it is generally believed now that the sutras written by Kapila are no longer available now. We have a text of the Kapila Sutras, actually sutras ascribed to Kapila, but all the scholars have come to the conclusion that these sutras might have been probably written in the 14th century AD, and they are not the sutras written by original Kapila, because those sutras refer to later systems of philosophy, and therefore they might have been recent ones. And then the only text that we have, the ancient text that we have to learn about the Sankhya system is the Sankhya Karika written by one Ishvara Krishna. It might have been written in the 5th century AD. The Sankhya Karika is also called Sankhya Saptati. Saptati means 70. And so there are 70 verses written by Ishvara Krishna. He gives his own name there, therefore there is no doubt about it. He really refers to Kapila also, and those Sankhya Karikas and the commentaries thereon are the basis on which we can understand the philosophy of the Sankhya's. The Sankhya's looked at the world. They understood that there are two principles in this world. One is that which is always changing. If you look at the world, we see everything changing every moment. And so all those things that are seen, they are considered as the evolution or evolutes of the Prakriti, the original nature. And the principle that is watching all this Prakriti, that is what is called Purusha or consciousness, what we also call the Atman. That is one principle. So Prakriti and Purusha, these were the two main doctrines that were accepted by the Sankhya's. The Sankhya's looked at the world and thought that irrespective of the advancement of human beings, this world is full of misery and sorrow. It is painful, and therefore a way should be found out to get out of this circle of birth and death. And the way they found was the realization of the truth of the Prakriti and Purusha. When we are able to understand what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, it is possible to go out of this net, this web that has been created by Prakriti. That is what the Sankhya's thought. The next system is called the Yoga system. Actually, Sankhya and Yoga are related very closely. The Sankhya appears to be the theoretical part, and the Yoga is its practical part. There is the reality of the Prakriti and the Purusha, but how to understand it? For that, a discipline has to be followed by every human being, and therefore, the yoga system developed the Ashtanga Yoga, which is famous, now in the world. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. These are the 8 angas or limbs or steps enunciated by Patanjali for the good of this world. If you follow this route, then you will be able to reach the 8th step, which is called the Samadhi. In the Samadhi, there are 2 aspects. One aspect is Savikalpaka Samadhi, and the other aspect is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. When one reaches the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, all his karmans, all his baggage of past deeds and actions, that will be burnt down, and therefore he will be able to reach a condition called Kaivalya, where he can be all alone, being away from Prakriti, and this condition is what is called liberation or emancipation, what we call moksha, complete moksha. And for this purpose, the Sankhyas and the Yoga, these 2 systems have accepted the plurality of souls. That is, there are infinite number of the souls. It is not one soul, but there are infinite number of souls, and each one has to achieve his own emancipation. So this pluralism is accepted by both Sankhya and the yoga system. Purusha Bahutvam Loke. So one person may gain the emancipation, one may become a liberated soul, but it does not mean that all of us benefit from that. We have to work out through the yoga system this moksha or kaivalya has to be earned by each and every one of us. That is the teaching of the yoga. The speciality of the yoga is that it accepts a God, which it calls Ishvara. So, in the system of Sankhya, there is no mention about any God. So, there what happens is, they are totally silent about it. The Sankhyas neither support the existence of God, nor they deny the existence of God. They are totally silent. And so, this yoga system, however, has accepted the existence of God, Ishvara, whom they say is Sarvajna. Sarve Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalena Anavachedat. That is what Patanjali says. And so, according to the yoga system, there is Ishvara who can bless us with the help of his kindness to gain the Kaivalya. And the third system we come to is called the Nyaya system. The author of the sutras of the Nyaya system is called Gautama. Gautama wrote the sutras, and its commentary, its explanation was given by one Vatsyayana. That is called Bhashya. According to this system, one has to understand this world, which comprises of Dravya, Guna, Karma, Samanya, Vishesha, Abhava, Samavaya. All these things are there in this world, and one has to understand this world properly in order to be liberated from this world. The Nyaya system also accepts one Ishvara or master of this world, whom they say was the creator of this world where we live in. The Ishvara is Sarvajna, and according to the Vedas also, yes, Sarvajnaha Saha Sarvavit. Like that, the Vedas are also saying, and therefore, all these are the creations of that God. And according to the Nyaya system, the Vedas are the pronouncements of God Himself. The Vedas were not said by any human beings, because the knowledge of the human beings is always very much limited. They cannot be thought of as omniscients or sarvajnas. It is impossible in this world for a human being to become omniscient. And so only God could be omniscient, and He created the Vedas, which are a repository of all knowledge in this world. So the Nyaya system also accepts the infinite number of the Atmans or Jivatmans, the individual souls, and everyone has to understand this world properly, and thus one has to gain the knowledge of Ishvara, and on account of that knowledge, one can get out of the morass of this creation, out of the wheel of birth and death. This is what has been said by the Nyaya system. Nyaya and Vaisheshika are almost the same system. All the principles enunciated in the Nyaya system are accepted by Vaisheshika system also. But they have separate sutras and also commentaries. The sutras of the Vaisheshika system were written by Kanada. This Kanada is supposed to be the earliest thinker of the atoms. According to him, all the things in this world are just masses of various atoms. These atoms, in their combinations, have produced all these variegated things in this system, in this whole world. Therefore, he is supposed to be the grandfather, Pitamaha of the atomic thought in India. Probably at the same time in Greece, the Greek philosophers had also professed all these ideas at the same time. The sutras of Kannada have been commented upon by Prasastapada, and now that system has grown by leaps and bounds in this world. These systems had a very strong logical point. Nyaya means logic. And so, by logical thinking, it is possible to arrive at all these points. One has to logically think and understand how the world is. There are some differences between the Nyaya Vaisheshika system and Sankhya Yoga system. The Sankhya Yoga system is Satkaryavadi. According to them, according to the Sankhyas, the effect already exists in the material cause. For instance, if we are using the oil, say groundnut oil, corn oil, till oil, etc., the oil already exists in the seeds, in the groundnuts, in the corn, etc., etc. And what is available only can be extracted. You cannot produce something that does not exist. And so, the Sankhya Yoga system is called Satkaryavadi. Sat means that which exists. Karya, the effect. The effect already exists in the material cause. That is their conclusion. And now the Nayayikas, that is the followers of the Nyaya system of knowledge, they are Asatkaryavadins. According to them, the Karya, the effect, does not exist in the material cause. Because if the effect already exists in the material cause, what was the necessity of laboring on that in order to get the effect? If oil is already present in the corn, then we should be able to use the oil now itself. We have to do a lot of work in order to extract the oil from groundnuts or corn or till. Therefore, the effect does not exist there. Similarly, if you take the example of a pot, according to the Sankhya's, the pot already exists in the clay. But the Nayayikas, the followers of the Nyaya school, ask the question, if the pot is already there in the clay, why don't you bring water with that supposedly existing pot? That question comes up. And therefore, the effect does not exist in the material cause. It has to be produced. And therefore, it is a new thing which did not exist earlier. This is the difference between the Sankhya Yoga system and the Nyaya Vaisheshika system. The Nyaya Vaisheshika system has grown very well in our country because this logical reasoning was used by various schools in order to establish their own theories and also to refute the ideas of others. These things have been discussed threadbare by the Nyaya system. They say what are the defects in an argument by showing which it is possible to defeat the proponent of any system. And therefore, irrespective of the school one follows now, everyone takes to the technique of logical thinking that was adopted by Nyaya systems. Even the unorthodox systems about which we are going to speak in the next lecture, that is the Buddhists, Jains, etc., they also adopted the logical thinking sequence, how it is possible to prove something. And for this purpose, the Nayayikas have developed the thought of inference to a very great extent. As we all know, the one means of valid knowledge is perception. Perception means what we see or what we experience directly in this world. If I see a tiger, it is Chakshusha Pratyaksha. That is the perception got from the eye. Similarly, if I touch something and feel that it is hard or hot or cold or smooth, soft, etc., that is Tvacha Pratyaksha. It is the Pratyaksha that is created with the help of our Indriya called Tvak or skin. Thus, it is perception. But perception does not permit us to have a lot of knowledge. We will be very, very poor if we accept only the perception or pratyaksha as the means of valid knowledge. And therefore, the system of Nyaya has developed to its maximum the Anumana or inference idea. That is, most of the things we do not actually see or experience, but on the basis of some experience, we can guess what should be its cause. So that is what is called inference. If I look somewhere and see the smoke emerging from there and rising up in the sky, I immediately come to the conclusion that there must be fire somewhere. I have not seen the fire, but I have the decisive knowledge that there must be fire because fire and smoke are concomitant. That is, if the fire does not exist, there cannot be the smoke. And therefore, on the basis of this, they have developed this and they have also used it to prove that there exists a master of this world who must be Sarvajna, omniscient, Sarvashakta, omnipotent, because without omniscience and without omnipotence, it is not possible to produce this wonderful world. And therefore, they are in a certain way atheists. They accept one God, but whether that God has a body like ours, whether he was produced from someone else, etc., they have their own reasons to believe that the God was not at all produced by anybody else. He is always there. That is, he is eternal. He is Shashvata. And he does not need anybody else to help him in creating this world. Because if we accept that he needs someone else to help him in the creation of this world, then we will have to say he is not omnipotent. He is not Sarvashakta. Since he is accepted as Sarvashakta, he does not need anybody else to help him in the creation or in the destruction of this world. He can do all these things on his own. And then, according to them, this God is merciful, and on account of his mercy, on account of his compassion, he gives what is called moksha to the deserving persons who have the perfect knowledge of this world. And so, in order to get out of this problem of birth and death, one has to acquire proper knowledge. According to them, Tattvajnanat Nishreya Sadhigamaha. Tattvajnana, that is the knowledge that is intimate and direct. It is not the indirect knowledge that we get from just books or just by listening to others, but that knowledge should be internalized, and on account of that knowledge, one gets this kind of liberation according to the Nyaya and Vaisheshika systems. Nyaya and Vaisheshika systems helped in the growth of scientific knowledge in our country. And then we have the other system of knowledge called Mimamsa. The system of Mimamsa mainly is related to the rituals that are described in the Vedas. According to them, the Vedas are eternal texts. Nobody has to produce them. They are there. They are Apaurushaya. No man created them. And even God remembers them and gives to the deserving people in this world that knowledge of Veda. And so it is always there according to the Mimamsa system. So the Mimamsa system, for that, the sutras were written by one great sage called Jaimini. Those that know Kannada might also think about the Jaimini Bharata of Lakshmisha. That Bharata, originally in Sanskrit, was written by one Jaimini. We do not know whether that Jaimini who wrote the Jaimini Bharata or the Jaimini who wrote the sutras of the Mimamsa system, both of them, whether they were identical or separate persons, we have no idea. However, these sutras of the Mimamsa system were written by Jaimini, and the commentary on the sutras of Jaimini was written by a person called Shabaraswamin. About the 1st century AD, the Shabaraswamin wrote this commentary. And so the Jaimini sutras should be very, very old, more than 2000 years old from now, they must be. And this system has developed very much. Here, what they say is, the Vedas are there in this world in order to induce the people to perform what is called dharma. Yagadireva dharma. Dharma means performing the sacrifices that are explained, described in the Vedas. That is the only goal of the human beings. Only from that one can get what is called Swarga or heaven, where one can be very, very happy for a very long time. So that is what is being said by the Mimamsaka system. This Mimamsaka system led to ritualism. That is, there were very great kings, emperors, very rich persons, etc. Only those persons were able to perform the sacrifices advocated in the Vedas, and there we find the dissatisfaction of the common man. A common man could not afford to arrange these great sacrifices where there was the need of there was the need of various priests, and also lots of resources were needed to get, for instance, an Ashwamedha Yaga, Rajasuya Yaga. Only very rich kings could afford to do these things, to perform these sacrifices. So the Mimamsa school gave the highest importance to the sacrifices, to rituals. In opposition to this, there was the school of Vedanta, or what is called Uttara Mimamsa. The Vedanta system has the sutras written by Badarayana Vyasa. These sutras are about 555 in number, and these sutras tell us that ritual performances are unnecessary. If one desires to have the highest good in this life, what is needed is the knowledge of the Brahman and the Atman. Brahman is the universal soul, and Atman is the individual soul. You should know who you are. You might know the whole world. You might know about the distant stars in the sky. But if you do not know yourself, everything else is a waste. And therefore, in order to understand oneself, one has to study the Upanishads. And therefore, this Vedanta system is also called Upanishada, that which comes from the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, we find the great teachers unraveling the secrets of the Atman and the Brahman in a very fine way. Actually, in our country, the best literature, philosophical literature, means the Upanishadic literature. And so, one should go to a teacher, one should renounce all the links with this world, one should completely concentrate on the teachings of the Upanishads, and from that one should gain the knowledge of oneself and the higher self, or the Paramatman. Jivatman and Paramatman should be known. And when this knowledge is gotten, it is possible to go to a condition where one does not have to be born in this world again. That is what is called moksha. And the sutras of Badarayana Vyasa, which are called Brahma Sutras or Vedanta Sutras, they have been commented upon by various scholars. Not one Bhashyakara as it is in the other systems, but in the system of Vedanta, we have bhashyas or commentaries written by many scholars. For instance, the most famous people are the three that we know, Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhva. These three commentators have explained the sutras according to their own understanding. One refutes the other, that we should know. Even though all of them are Vedantins, they have different ideas about the meanings of the sutras of Badarayana, and there they try to tell us that Sri Shankara states Jiva Brahmano Aikyam. The Jivatman, that is the individual soul, and the Brahman, the universal soul, they are one and the same. That is the conclusion of Shankara. But Madhva is diametrically opposed to this idea. He says that these two are always separate. The individual soul is dependent on the universal soul, and the universal soul, whom he calls Vishnu or Hari or Narayana, that God is the only totally independent entity in this whole universe, according to the Madhva system. And Ramanuja takes a middle course where he says they are different, but all these individual souls and everything in this world is like the body of that Brahman, whom he calls also Vishnu, Narayana, Hari, like that, with various names. And therefore, the Vedanta system has several branches. There are even branches which are Shaiva Vedanta, that is, in which it is said that Shiva is the highest truth, highest reality, and only from him all this universe emerged. And he is the one that is compassionate and gives liberation to all the individual souls. And thus we see these 6 schools of philosophy developing into different knowledge systems in our country. And in each system, if you take Shankara's system, you have hundreds of works written by great intellectuals. Similarly, in the Ramanuja system, you have great scholars like Vedanta Deshika, who have explained in detail the ideas of Ramanuja. Similarly, in the system of Madhvacharya, we have great scholars like Jayatirtha, Vijayendra, Raghavendra, etc., who have written voluminous works to describe the ideas of Madhvacharya. Thus, these 6 systems have grown and have given this world various different views of this universe. In the philosophy, the 3 points that should be understood or the world where we live. That is one thing, the universe in which we live. The second point is we who are observing this world, who are discussing these things, that is the Jivatma. Thirdly, the Paramatma who has created this world, who has created this universe and running this universe. These 3 points, on these 3 points, there is so much of elaboration that one can study for 1,000 years. So much has been written about these systems of knowledge. And so, I request all of you, see, even though these original works of these 6 systems have been written in Sanskrit, all these works have been translated into modern languages. If you are a Kannada speaker, you get the translations of all these works in Kannada. If you are a speaker of English, you have several translations of each one of these works. Therefore, if one is interested in the modern world, every help is available on the tip of your fingers. These books, the original texts, and also the commentaries, as well as the translations, have been put on the net by good followers of the several teachers. And so, for everyone, these texts are easily available. And therefore, scholars like you, or the teachers who are the guides to this world, all of you should have the knowledge of these systems produced in our own country. So, this is just a bird's eye view of the 6 systems which are called Astika Darshana. The name that we give to philosophy in our country is Darshana. See, the word philosophy, what it means is love of knowledge. But its equivalent in our languages, Darshana, it means vision. That is, it is not enough if we simply know these things. It must be realized. You should make it a point of your experience. For this system, all the methods have been given by our great teachers.